Hey guys, how you doing? So great to be back again with another podcast episode. It's nice to see you, Paul, again. And nice to see you, Aditya. It feels so long sometimes when I don't speak to you. And that 1 day break on a Saturday just feels like I haven't spoken to you like forever. It's weird. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I mean, welcome back, Paul, once again. It's good to see you as well. How are you feeling? How was your guys' weekend? Let's go around the room. Let's have a listen. How was your weekend?
Look, I played golf yesterday, and then Arsenal disappointed me. So yeah, that was that. That was my weekend.
You want to talk a little bit more about that golf session first?
Oh no, it was okay. It wasn't bad. I've just started. It's I think been 2 months playing golf. So yeah, I'm still a little bit new hitting the ball. Sometimes the ball does what you want it to do, then you do something to make the ball go somewhere else. But yeah, it's been fun. It's just that obviously after that fun session, Arsenal decided to take me back to I don't know where. But yeah. Probably the most frustrating thing.
I don't think I want to speak about Arsenal a lot more because I don't want to do that to you, Paul. I want to get some of the insight from your golf experience a little bit. I think that can give maybe the fans a little bit more insight because because golf for me personally is one of the hardest sports I've ever played. Like I've tried a couple of sports in my time like that are considered difficult. Like badminton is quite tricky. I feel squash can be quite it's a very strenuous, but you must be fit to play squash. It's very seldom that you're going to be able to last a full game of squash if you're not fit. Hockey, it wasn't as tough as I thought it was going to be when I did play. But I'm not talking about playing it at the highest level. That's obviously a whole different ball game altogether. But generally speaking, golf for me, I don't know. It's just something that I feel you don't have control over what's happening, and how much practice do you actually need to get for you to even get to this level where you can say, I hit the ball, then I meant to go there.
Look, I think for me, I think because I played hockey before, it was a little bit easier because I did take some lessons before and stuff like that. But I think the whole swing and everything was just, I was okay. I was comfortable with that. It's just obviously being consistent. I think for me that's the big issue. Is the consistency, because that's what makes the guys who are scratch golfers. That's what makes the guys on the tour. They consistently strike the ball everywhere and they get it to where you want it to go. So it's just it's a repetition for me that I need to get my hours in, which is why spending 4 hours on a golf course is one of the things you kind of have to do. I've got into golf now, so I was like watching the BMW Championship, and I'm excited because obviously the Ryder Cup is coming soon. But yeah, I'm a mechanics person, so I like to see how things are done, and like I think golf, the mechanics and obviously the strategy around how guys navigate the courses is what makes it quite intriguing compared to like other sports. But yeah, I find it quite a lot easier. What sport did I find hard to play? Rugby. I never got this whole passing back thing. I liked watching it, but like even watching it, I'm like,
I love the rugby. If
somebody ever decides to just, push it forward a little bit, then they change the game. But I understand. But yeah, I think hockey, squash, they were okay. But I've always been good with like racket sports or sports with like a stick. I just and obviously soccer, but outside of that, is the only thing that irritates me about golf is the whole etiquette thing. Like, why can't I play with a t-shirt? Like, why do I need to have a golf shirt? And it just makes no sense. But yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, something new to add. But as a cricket player, you should be okay with playing golf. Though. That's the thing. Like, cricket is always good at playing golf. So like, what's going on, Khalid?
Who said I was a good cricketer? So like, with golf for me is why I'm bringing it up and why it's so important is I want to talk about, because obviously practicing, etc., and those type of things is very important. Like I've noticed when you play in the golf in the driving range, you're hitting the ball perfectly, and I have a lot of success in the driving range. But when you move over to the actual course, it's a whole different ball game, because then there's other things involved, different irons, etc., and all of those things, and reading the conditions, a whole lot of things as well. And then you have to play your chipping game, your putting game, all of those type of things as well, and your nerves. But Aditya, let's hear what how was your weekend? What did you get up to, and then we can move on to Abba and then Werner as well.
Not much. I was just, I don't know, roaming around the city, just being free, getting a breath of fresh air. We've been indoors for far too long, and there isn't a whole lot of space to really, just get out too much. So I was just, in the city, chilling with, a couple of friends, and I guess avoiding the cricket because of how India got hammered by England. But yeah, overall, a relaxing weekend. It was nice.
So it looks like I'm the only one that really had like a celebratory type of weekend then. Okay, bye. Let's go to.
Since we were talking about golf, I coincidentally picked the right hat to wear. It's Pebble Beach. So I had actually gone to the U.S. Open in 2010. It was very fun. It was like an hour away from home. But yeah, since we were talking about golf like a few minutes ago, I guess different players have different approaches. A guy like Bryson DeChambeau, we call his approach bomb and gouge. Like, he doesn't really care about accuracy when he hits off the tee, because he can hit it so far that he can recover from that in his next shot. But on the other hand, if I was a professional golfer, I can't really hit that long off the tee. I think the short game is something that matters big time, because even if you hit a bad tee shot, your ability to recover from that is much more important. Because if you make like a rookie error on the green, you're missing out on a couple of straightforward shots that you could have saved. Mm-hmm. So I think, and I'm speaking from experience. I played golf when I was in middle school and a little bit during high school. I haven't had the chance to play much recently. I might do it next weekend. But yeah, other than that, my weekend was pretty relaxed. It's been a long work week. I don't get a whole lot of time to unwind, but thankful for that. Yeah.
Awesome. Werner, great to see you back again. I'm asking everybody, so I can't just leave you out as well. How's your weekend?
That was nice. I had some celebrations. We celebrated my mom's birthday, so we had a good time. Played some board games, so it was pretty relaxed type of weekend as well, but some celebrations at least. I can't talk too much about golf. I never really got into golf that well. I tried going to the driving range once with my dad, but I'm a lefty, and at that time, and when I was still in school, I don't know how it is now, but the left-handed golf clubs were a lot more expensive than a right-handed. I don't know if it's still the same type of thing nowadays, but at that stage, it was a lot more expensive. I never really got into golf as a left-hander.
Yeah, I'm also left-handed as well. So my friend he's also left-handed, so he bought himself a club. And look, I don't play golf at all. Like I already started speaking about it because Paul said he went to the golf course and it's something new. So I thought, let's just have a chat about it. Okay, I think
it's so good to have a golf fan in the mix. I mean, I rarely get a chance to talk golf with so many people like on any given day.
Yeah, so it's interesting to talk about because the precision of that sport, and I think that's the reason why I think so many cricketers actually end up playing golf. It's a nice place for them to just unwind and like really get themselves ready for matches and focus and stuff, and the accuracy that you need to be able to hit that ball consistently as well. I think some cricketers, like my one friend, his natural way, he almost has like a range hitting type of style when he does play, but it just shows like my point about playing in the range and hitting the ball smoothly there and then transitioning. It's the same like range hitting in cricket. You can smack that ball out the park. I watched Chris Gayle at Newlands range hit. He was smashing the ball all over the bloody place. Next game he played for Mzansi Super Leagues, he was nowhere near his best. So it's just one of those things. What you practice necessarily doesn't always come into the game. But let's get into cricket, because I think that's why most people are here. So let's get into the discussion. The main discussion, of course, is who is key in Sri Lanka, and I think that's a topic that I thought we can go very, very in depth with. I think let's just start off with each one just giving their person that they think is the person that's going to be key, and then we can go with a discussion, because we might pick the same guys, and I don't want to make it so monotonous that we're all speaking about the same guy and giving our say. So let's just go around the room first and just pick your guy that you think is going to be key, and then we can get into the discussion. I'll direct it from there. So Mpo, Aditya, Abai, and Werner.
I'd say Enoch Nkwe, but he's not there. So, yeah, off the table there. I don't know how to answer this one. It's a tough one. But I do think that I think the pace bowlers are going to be quite important in those middle overs, because I think South Africa might find themselves going in with 2 spinners and three quicks. So I'll say Dwayne Pretorius. I think Dwayne needs to use this series to find form. And I think also try and learn how to bowl in these surfaces. So I'll go with that.
Yeah, and this a reminder, guys. We're just going to start with the ODIs first and foremost. Aditya, what is the name that you're going to throw out there?
I was going to say Dwayne Pretorius, but I'm actually going to go with Aiden Markram now.
Okay, cool. Good. So we've got one for Dwayne, we've got one for Aiden, and then Abai, what is your man?
You know what? I'm gonna make things super left field, make it interesting. I'm gonna say Andile, because he hasn't been in good form with either skill in recent times, and I think this is a good chance for him to show that yes, he's improved and he can offer more than what his stats suggest. I mean, I've always wanted to see him dominate with either or both skills on a regular basis, and I hope it happens in the near future.
And guys, if you want to pick the same guy, it makes it easier for us to discuss it. Don't be afraid to say, no, I said exactly the same as Mpo or Aditya, or whatever the case may be. Werner, who's your guy that you're throwing out there?
Yeah, I was also going to say Dwayne Pretorius in those conditions with his cutters and bringing some power through the middle overs. I think we really need him. But if I want to throw someone else in there that hasn't really gotten the game time I think he deserves, it might be Kyle Verreynne, and now that Miller is not playing in the ODIs. It'll be interesting to see how he goes through the middle overs.
Okay, cool. So let's talk about Dwayne. I think it's very important that we do. There was a press conference with Dwayne Pretorius today as well, or a little, not a press conference, but a little interview that the Superkazi did with him. We put that video on the channel, so you guys can go ahead and go check it out. Aditya, do you just want to go over some of the main points before we get into the discussion about Dwayne?
Yes. So the team has started training today, and they had an indoor session because it was raining. But it looks like everyone's not out of quarantine yet, and so they've been training in smaller groups. So yeah, and he said that it might be tiring for the coaching staff because they have to basically do the same thing with 3 different groups. But beyond that, Dwayne Pretorius believes that the tracks are going to be the 150, 160 kind of wickets, and that's what the team is planning for. In addition to that, he thinks it's going to be imperative for players to be running a lot, whether it's between the wickets or in the field, because outfields tend to be significantly bigger and they're also slower, not as quick as South Africa. So that's that. But I think what was really key for me was that he felt like 150, 160 could be winning totals in Sri Lanka, which may be the case, but I do feel like they're aiming a bit low. Somewhere. Given the number of times we've talked about 160 odd scores in the Sri Lanka and the West Indies and Ireland series, I'm going to be sick of seeing 150, 160 games, and I hope that they aim a bit higher. But that's what Dwayne said.
Maybe being the master of 160 is the key to winning the World Cup, Mpo.
Yes and no. And I think this week I did a podcast with Dan Weston, who I think, is the lead recruiter for the Birmingham Phoenix in the 100. And he spoke about, we asked him about South Africa's chances. And his big issue was South Africa does not have any power hitters, does not have any hitters in their team.
Yeah.
And South Africa's boundary percentage is low. And if you have a low boundary percentage, you're going to end up hanging around 160, 170. And he said, he even made a case for England to drop Darwin Milan, which was wild. Largely because of the fact that he can't hit sixes. And he said that if you're not going to have those boundary hitters, your bowlers better be guys who can deny the opposition boundaries. And so the question for South Africa in these conditions, and this is the first start, is the ability for them to stop boundaries in a T20 context and restrict teams to that 160, 170 mark, because that's where that's our max right now from a batting perspective. So his thing was, if you have a lot of boundary hitters, you can get away with guys who like a Tom Curran, because everybody doesn't like Tom Curran, but you can get away with a guy like a Tom Curran because he concedes a lot of boundaries, but you know you can always match it on the batting end because you got guys who can hit. But if you don't have those guys, your bowlers need to be that good at denying, and so you need to balance it out. And I think that's why everyone's talking about Dwayne, because the thing for Dwayne is if he bats at 6 and he is such an integral guy in that lineup, he elongates your batting lineup. And then on top of that, from a bowling perspective, he can bowl on slower wickets and slower tracks, and he can bowl effectively on slower tracks. And that's what you and that's what you want. From a 6 and 7. That's the frustrating thing for me about Andile, is that he's got the skill set that Dwayne has, and he's a much better bowler than Dwayne. The only issue is that his batting isn't there. It's not there at all. And you want Andile and Dwayne to take those middle overs, but his batting is not there. So I would even be surprised if Andile actually gets a game. I'd rather see Vian Mulder play to see if maybe Vian's the guy in those middle overs with Dwayne. The only question that I don't know about, I don't know where Mark is, because I don't know, because Enoch's no longer there, where Mark and probably Mandla are thinking around how many spinners do you want to play. I would even say maybe go for George Linder in your top 7 and have Keshav and Shamsi with 3 other quicks, and have Dwayne as your one seamer, and then you can pick 2 other seamers, maybe Anrich and Kagiso, and see how that kind of works out. It's a little bit risky from an ODI perspective, but it would give him an answer from a T20 perspective going into the World Cup. But I think for me, that's where my thing is. That's why Dwayne is so important, because having Dwayne at 6 it gives this team a lot of balance. Because the thing about Sri Lanka, and I think when India played Sri Lanka in those ODIs, Hasaranga bowled really well. So did Akila Dhananjaya. So the spin factor came in. But what India had was some very good batsmen who could eke out runs from 1 until 7. And I think that's why Dwayne is so important for us, because if he bats at 6, he needs to score runs and give the balance that we've all been asking for. But yeah, I think for me that's where we need to figure out, because if Dwayne's at 6, you can play 3 spinners. If he's not at 6, I don't think you can play 3 spinners, because I don't think George Linder can bat at 6.
How high do you think, Werner? How high do you think Dwayne can actually go in the lineup?
As Yabai says, 5. I think 6 is probably a good spot. He might be able to go at 5, but I don't know how, if he comes right in the middle or in ODIs, how is his strike rotation? He's a very good boundary hitter, but we still need that guy who can nudge it around as well. In T20s, not so much, but in ODIs, I'd prefer him at 6. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Okay, I think that is the one, like I've always been saying on so many reviews, so many previews, though, the one person that we've been missing in all the tours has been Dwayne Pretorius in my eyes. I think he completes our setup, our lineup perfectly, especially when we're having to be looking for that big hitters or those guys that can hit boundaries, especially at the end. I think that Dwayne is the perfect person. With regards to the other batters, Abai, I wanna know your opinion on this one. Because we got Janneman in the ODIs, but he's not in the T20 setup. But we've got him over there in the ODIs. I'm looking at Janneman's push because he's probably going to push for that to be one of the main players in that 2023 squad. But I think like Aditya picked Aiden Markram, as one of the players to watch in this particular series. And currently, I feel that Janneman and Aiden are kind of fighting for almost the same position. Do you agree with that, or are you seeing a space in this particular ODI setup for both of them?
Interesting question. So I think I wouldn't necessarily say fighting because Janneman's outperformed Aiden so far in the recent ODI, so he must start. I think when it comes to Aiden Markham, he could bat number 3, so you could be able to accommodate both. So Aiden could bat number 4 too. So Janneman Milan, Quinton de Kock, Temba Bavuma, Aiden Markham, that could work. Quinton de Kock isn't the ODI squad. My bad. But even then, I think, you could accommodate both Janneman Milan and Aiden Markham.
Aditya, do you want to add to that? Because we also got someone like Kyle Verreynne chilling on the bench, if possibly. I mean, I would like to see him start immediately, obviously. You know the reasons why. But, I mean, we've got so many options in that lineup. There's so many players that are going to play. And if we look in 2023 World Cup, who are the forerunners with regards to that, with those positions? Those middle order positions is where I see someone like Aiden. But is it possible that he could maybe eclipse someone like Janneman for an opener position with Quinton de Kock?
Are we still talking about ODIs, or have we moved to T20s? Look, I personally think of Aiden as an incumbent in the opening position in ODIs. I feel like that position is tailor-made for him. And part of the reason that I think he's going to be a key player here is that everyone goes to Sri Lanka thinking that conditions are going to be low and slow and spinning, and therefore mentally I think you're thinking about getting set and negotiating the challenges that are presented to you, as opposed to the struggles that we've seen with Aiden in South Africa, where strike rate is great, but he doesn't stick around for long enough. So I feel like this tour will put less pressure on him to bat at a certain strike rate, and it might give him an opportunity to really bat long, and there'll be less pressure on him as well to bat at a high strike rate. Therefore, I think this is an important tour for him. It could be sort of defining tour for Aiden's ODI career in particular.
Because Mpo, I wanna ask you next, because there's two things I want to ask you. First and foremost, about Teresa Hendricks. I want to know your opinion on that for this particular ODIs, for the ODIs, because do we approach as South Africa? Do we approach the ODIs with a mindset of, okay, we're building to the 2023 World Cup, or are we thinking of it as, no, some guys that we want to push into the T20s and give opportunities to play, we're going to give them opportunities in ODIs too, even though they're completely different formats in my eyes, and you approach them completely differently in my eyes. Do you see it like that, or is there a balance between the two? You're trying to give maybe some guys an opportunity.
So here's something for everyone to chat. Between Aiden and Reza, one batsman averages 26, 1 century, 2 half centuries. The other batsman averages 26 with 2 half centuries. What do you do? I honestly do think that the reason Aiden window should be closing in ODI cricket. But I think obviously Aiden had that monster season in 2019 that got him into the World Cup squad, and everyone's just waiting for that to happen. And as Aditya says, he just doesn't hang around long enough. His strike rate's at 85. I don't know how you do it. I do agree that Aiden does need an opportunity in 2021 in the ODI side. But if he's averaging 26, how long do you keep him in the squad? So too Reza Hendricks. I thought the Reza Hendricks experiment was done in 2019. I thought the moment they selected Aiden over him, I would have gone with Reza to the World Cup. I wouldn't have gone with Aiden, and I've spoken about my reasons quite for a while. But I thought that we needed to move on. But I don't like being ageist. I don't like the fact that people are not talking about Rassie van der Dussen in that top 4. I don't like the fact that people are moving Aiden down to bat at number 4 when he averages 26 and he's played 31 games. It's I'm sitting there going, I understand what great potential he has, but in the ODI setup, he has not done it. So I'm okay with you giving him an opportunity, and I'm 100% okay with that. But how long are you going to continue to persist with this guy, and figure out and try and go, because he hasn't even scored 100 in ODIs yet in 31 games, and so even with Reza Hendricks, I don't think Reza should be there. I think that spot is Janneman's. It should be Quinton and Janneman opening, going to the 2023 World Cup, and you should be trying to qualify for the World Cup. The number one thing here for South Africa is to qualify for the World Cup. It is not guaranteed that you're going to be there. Ask the West Indies, number one. Qualify for the World Cup, which means you need to win games on top of that, trying to figure out what the balance is, which is why it makes it a little bit harder now, because you don't have 2 years where you're going to be like, okay, I'm going to try different combinations, because that means you're going to lose some games, but you can't lose a lot of games, because you're going to find yourself in a bit of a hole at the bottom of that Super League table. So I think for me, that's the thing. I do think that the way in which Mark Boucher sets out his squads, that Reza's there as cover in case there's COVID or injury. I don't expect to see Reza Hendricks bat. I don't expect to see Reza Hendricks play. I think the reason why Reza's there is that he's played in the Proteas before, and bringing in somebody new, Reinhard van Tonder, who hasn't done well in ODIs. There's a Grant Rulofsson could have come in. I would have given him an opportunity. He was a great strike rate. Ryan Rickleton, I would have given him an opportunity. So I really don't understand what the Reza plan is. I think Reza, in the last tour kind of said that everyone understands their role. So for me, that's the one thing. I'd like to know what Reza's role is in the side, because if he's there, like they said with Carl Verena as backup, then that's fine. You can take Reza. He's not going to play. Unless if there's an injury. But I do think when Quinton comes back into the ODI side, it should be Janneman and it should not be Aiden. And if you want to try Aiden at the other spots in the team, that's fine too. But Rassie van der Dussen should be batting at 4. So yes, Rassie's going to be 35 at the next World Cup. Well, no, 33 at the next World Cup. Well, so be it. Or 34. Well, so be it. I don't think that's old enough. I don't think that's old. Temba's going to be 33 at the next World Cup. I'll be 33 at the next World Cup. I don't think I'm old at 33. So I think for me, it's between Aiden and Janneman. And right now, it's Janneman's spot to hold on to for the foreseeable future. T20s, different option, because they switch around.
We'll talk about T20s at another time. I think a podcast show we'll probably have a podcast show about the same topic, but just on T20s alone. I want to dedicate T20s to a complete show. I just want to speak about ODIs in this particular ODI series right now. And there is one particular hint that we'll get, because it will obviously show us who's going to be playing. Quinton de Kock not being in the ODI side shows that you need obviously to pick a wicketkeeper. Now, the wicket keepers that are on tour for this particular case is obviously the fight between Verena and Carl and Heinrich Klaassen. Now, in my eyes, in the ODI format, I think that Carl Verena is the better keeper, and I think he has the foot in for me ahead of Klaassen in the ODI format. Personally, I feel. I just think based on what I've seen, the way he's played, the way he can maneuver the tail, all of those type of things, I think it's a good signs for me. And I think looking towards the World Cup, I think we should be building in the future we should be building a team around Calvarene eventually, because I think this boy is exceptionally talented and his mindset is incredible. We saw how he approached it against a team like Australia, no pressure. It doesn't matter what Australian team walked out to the field. Just the fact that you're playing Australia is already a nerve-wrecking thing, no matter what team walks out in the middle of the field. This is knowing that statue is going to come around. That statue of team. Abai, you showing something on the screen? What is it exactly? So that I can know if I must talk about it later or now.
Paul was talking about Grant Williamson, so I just wanted to throw something in real quick. So
okay, cool.
All right. So if we look here, these stats are from last year, and 588 runs, average of 65, strike rate of 98. This may have just been one tournament, but it's definitely enough to at least be part of the conversation when it comes to the Proteas squad. But this guy never got a chance, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
Well, I can maybe let me try to answer that. And Valvita, if you want to sponsor the show, please sponsor yourself for that free advertising that we gave you right there. Let me see. Oh, flip. Sorry, Abai. I meant to close your screen, not kick you from the streams. Oops. I'll add him in again later. But my thoughts on Grant is, because we kind of know who our openers are. I think that because our openers have been performing at international level. First of almost, it's the second opener I'm talking about, because Quinton de Kock, no matter what happens, plays. Grant, I feel, is a guy that he has to open the batting. I'm sorry about this, Abai. I kicked you by mistake. I'm sorry. I meant to close your screen and not kick you from the stream. But let's just talk about Grant. Now, Grant is an interesting one because he's also a wicketkeeper. You know, understand what I mean? So he's another wicketkeeper that's coming into the mix. And I think that if Quinton de Kock doesn't play, the next in line is Calvarene in my eyes, like I've said already. Now, Verna, I want you to give your opinion on this first, and then the rest can open up on this one. I would also like to hear Aditya's thoughts on this as well. And then, Paul, you can weigh in after they've said something about it. But who do you think is leading the pecking order when it comes to Heinrich Klaasen for this particular series? Heinrich Klaasen or Calvarene?
In terms of the favorite, I think Mark Boucher likes Klaasen more, having coached him for longer. And I think that's why he's continuously getting picked ahead of Verena. And if he was still in the same form that he had against Australia, I would also have Klaasen playing, because it was exceptional on that tour. But since then, he's been badly out of form, and Verena hasn't really gotten much opportunities. And he hasn't taken the last few, but it has been sporadic kind of opportunities. So I would personally play Verena ahead of him as the backup keeper. Obviously, in T20s, is not being picked, but for the ODIs, I would go at this based on Klaasen's current form, or the last form I saw at least. I would go with Verena.
Because Aditya, it doesn't seem like what they're saying in the press conferences are lining up with what is happening. Because we've always heard that, no, Carl's the backup keeper. In every press conference we've spoken to Mark Boucher, and he's always said that. So your thoughts, do you think Klaasen gets the nick in this particular match?
You know, the series against Pakistan, both Klaasen and Verena played. So I don't know why that can't happen again. But you know, it's not healthy for Kyle Verena to be sitting on the sidelines for as long as he has. You know, ultimately, I think that stalls his growth, because if he's going to be traveling with the squad, but he's not picked on a consistent basis, it's better for him to be playing domestic cricket. You know, that it just doesn't make sense for him to be traveling with the squad all the time. But in saying that, I personally feel like he should be in the 11, and he needs to be given an extended run, particularly in this series. You know, because if we test the mettle of a player in overseas conditions, in challenging and unfamiliar conditions, this is it. And if Kyle Verena gets an opportunity through this ODI series, you know, we'll have a better understanding of where his game is. And irrespective of whether he does well or not, he'll come out of it a better player.
So it makes
perfect sense.
Yeah. it makes it also very difficult when we are looking at Kyle Verreynne or Klaassen as that number 6 player. Because if you're looking at the team that we have, when Quentin de Kock plays, I don't see any of them playing, either of them playing. Because David Miller's in the mix. You've got Rassie van der Dussen. You've got either Aiden maybe can slot in one of those. You've got Themba Bavuma still. You've got Janneman as an opener or Aiden as an opener. You've got your 6. We're hoping that we're going to have an extra spinner maybe involved. You're going to have likes of George Linder. You're going to have Dwayne Pretorius maybe batting 6 because we're looking at him as maybe the power hitting all rounder. Then you've got obviously your bowlers and your tail. But currently with this current squad, South Africa could play quite a deep batting lineup. So Paul, I want you to add it on here because when Quentin de Kock's fit as a wicketkeeper, do you see either of them playing with the current squad that we got?
Not really, unless if like David Miller and Rassie van der Dussen go woefully, have a bad run of form. But the way Boucher sees this team, even if you have a bad run of form, we're not going to bring someone else in. We're just going to play you through form, through your bad patches. So, look, it's tough. And I know you guys want Kyle Verreynne, and I know everyone's like clamoring for youth, but between Kyle and Heinrich, it'll always be Heinrich, just because Heinrich adds that leadership that Mark Boucher will want. Because remember, when Mark came, he said he wanted to, teach this team how to play international cricket. One guy who's a fighter for him, who will never die, is Heinrich Klaassen.
So why does he never speak about him as his backup keeper? Why does he always mention Kyle?
Because
Heinrich is
not Heinrich. Because you asked about Kyle, you never asked about Heinrich Klaassen. Everybody in the media, and I was in those press conferences, kept on asking about Kyle. Why isn't Kyle Verreynne playing? Why isn't everybody's asking about Kyle? And fair enough. And so Mark gave you the answer. We select our 11 or our squad or whatever it is, and then there's guys who are there as backups. And Kyle is there as a backup. And from an ODI perspective, Kyle doesn't have 100. Heinrich Klaassen has one. Even though Kyle's got 2 half centuries, Heinrich has got 2 half centuries. Heinrich's average is 35. Kyle's average is 36. There's nothing to pick between them. Just the fact that somebody decided that Kyle's a backup and Heinrich's the starter, or is the number 2. We've got 3 wicket keepers in South Africa. 1 is not playing now, so number 2 comes in, he gets his opportunity. And to a certain extent, Heinrich's captained the side before, so the leadership aspect also adds into this. And to a certain extent, even looking at 2023, unless like there's a massive situation where somebody retires, Kyle's going to go to the 2023 World Cup as a squad player. We should be okay with that, and we should be comfortable with that. And I understand you want to build the side around it, and that's fine. The only way Kyle can break down doors is if Kyle in this next season puts down numbers that nobody can deny. But we just saw, as Aditya put up, Grant Rudolphson sitting there, 588 runs, head above shoulders than everybody else. But Grant can't even sniff the side. And you can't tell me it's an opening situation when you're sitting with 2 guys who are averaging 26, and they're in Sri Lanka right now. Like, what madness is that? What madness is that?
Well,
like
when Aiden plays
26 in ODIs.
So we've got Janneman who scores centuries at international level, and
That's
then we've got Aiden.
Janneman
but we also got Aiden when he goes to Momentum One Day Cups, he slaughters it when he does play.
And I'm okay with that, but it's like I've always said. Well, yeah,
like I love Grant Rudolphson.
I don't want to go back to the whole domestic bully thing, but it's a Tennis de Bruin argument. Tennis de Bruin averages 50 in domestic 4-day cricket in South Africa, but take that same Tennis, put him in a protest side. It hasn't worked, so they took him out. In this ODI side, has it worked for Aiden Markram after 31 games? I don't think so. Has it worked for Riza after 21 games? I don't think so. So maybe then take them out and put somebody else in. But the problem is that I'm worried that however many runs Kyle Verreynne scores in the next one-day cup, I don't think he'll ever get an opportunity in the side because of the way we are selecting sides. We're selecting sides on reputation rather than selecting sides on actually the numbers. And that goes across the entire spectrum, batsmen and bowlers. And that's my worry about a guy like Kyle, that a guy like Kyle in 2023 is not gonna get an opportunity, a fair shake at playing international cricket, even though maybe his domestic numbers, like for instance, here's the thing: Kyle Verreynne averages 60 last season in our 4-day game, right? And he got the West Indies series. Is Kyle Verreynne going to play against India later in the year? I can't tell you that. I actually would put money on him not even starting that game, starting that series against India. Why? Because we're not willing to give guys like that who break down doors that opportunity to play. And that's my biggest worry, is that you're sitting in Sri Lanka right now, and there are two guys who average 26. Guys like Grant Rulofsson have done really well domestically last season, but they're not getting an opportunity to try in the team when they can see that there are two guys there who are averaging 26. Between the two of them, in 52 games, they've only managed 1 century and 4 half centuries between the two of them, and that's Reza and Aiden, but guys are at home. So tell me if Kyle's going to get an opportunity based on that. I don't think Kyle's going to get an opportunity in the side unless if there's injuries, and that's why he's there. That's what he's there for, and I think that's going to be the case up until 2023, because I don't see Heinrich Klaassen retiring. I don't even see Rassie van der Dussen. Rassie's like in that top 5. Rassie's the only guy who deserves a spot in that team. The other man as well, but like Rassie, is you can't kick him out. David Miller's ODI averages are not that bad as well. So like what must Kyle do? Because you can say go score runs domestically. Here's the thing: Zubair Hamza's number 2 on that list, but is Zubair Hamza anywhere near this ODI side? Ryan Rickleton's number 3 on that list. Is Ryan Rickleton near this ODI side? Nothing. But we're sitting there with guys who are averaging 26 and not getting opportunities. So Kyle's not going to get one. I don't even expect Kyle to sniff the field this season, this series. And I don't want to be disrespectful, but I don't think Kyle's going to play. Based on the way Boucher's told us and what we've heard, I don't think Kyle's. I honestly even think in 2023, Kyle's probably going to go there and carry drinks or sit in a hotel waiting for an injury.
Okay, so who was the weighing on that number 6 position? Anybody want to say who your favorite is for that particular position? Verno or Richard, you want to weigh in over here? Because for me currently, I mean, it has to, obviously for this particular series, we're probably going to have to see one of those wicket keepers take it, because they're forced to do that in this particular series. But if Quinton de Kock plays, then who takes that 6th position for you? I know he's not in this ODI squad. I'm just thinking ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I'll stick with Pretorius at 6. I think one of the wicket keepers, either Klaassen or Verreynne, can slot in at 5 in this squad. It will probably be Malan and Markram to open, Bavuma 3, Rassie 4, and then one of them at 5, and then Pretorius at 6. And then when Quinton comes back, one of the Malan should definitely open. I'm with him on that one. It's no debate on that. I guess it depends on whether they think they should be moving Markram down the order, or whether they will then still play one of Verreynne or Klaassen. But I agree with Mpo as well that I think Klaassen is probably still ahead, despite Verreynne being in good form. I think Klaassen would probably still play ahead of him based on how we have been picking squads, which I have had a problem with in the past as well. Like someone like Michal Pretorius was picked for the T20s against was it Pakistan or Sri Lanka? I can't remember, but he came into the squad, sat in the squad, went over, never got a game. Ryan Rickleton went over to Pakistan, never got a game. So it's tough on the guys who are actually performing in the domestic setup. When even when you are getting picked in the squad, you're never getting a game. They're very, I don't know, they keep picking the same players even when they're not performing. So yeah.
And I know COVID plays a role. COVID squads play a role in that as well. Picking because you need to have extra guys, all of those type of things. But what's your final analysis? Let's just get everybody's final analysis going into this game. What is your final thoughts on all of this that we discussed today?
Look, we're having a conversation about who should be selected. Who should be in the team based on the selection proclivities of Mark Balch and the management team, and who we think should actually be in the team. But I think something that we may be missing out here is that the team hasn't had an ODI strategy for a while, like a collective ODI strategy, a game plan where the team can adapt to a wide variety of situations. It feels like there are 11 individuals playing their own game, as opposed to 11 individuals forming a team to accomplish a common objective. And I don't think that that's happening with this team right now, because Aiden Markram hasn't figured out his ODI game. Yaneman Malan is sort of figuring out his ODI game. Themba Bavuma also needs to score some big hundreds. Rassi van der Dussen is probably the only player who has a firm understanding of his game. David Miller is an experienced pro, the most experienced in the team, but he has been playing on and off in the ODI format. And then we've got the bowlers. So I honestly feel like the team needs to reflect more on how they want to play ODI cricket collectively, and certain facets of each of their games that need improvement. That to me is the priority here, because we could talk about Carl Verena's game and how he generally tends to play, but that doesn't help if we aren't talking about a collective strategy here. And that to me seems to be missing from the conversation from the team, and certainly from Mark Balcher, because so far we've heard smart but aggressive but smart. Sorry.
All right, I think as far as the South Africa Sri Lanka ODIs are concerned, I think this is the opportunity to build the momentum, because if we look at the Ireland series, things didn't go well, even though it was 1-1, because the first game was lost. This was a series that most fans would have believed, okay, we should be able to win this, but now I think the situation is starting to, should I say, intensify. And another thing is the team management needs to figure out how to integrate the younger players, because you can't have them sitting on the bench for an extended period of time. In fact, the key to solving this transition phase is figuring out how to integrate each of the young players that are just beginning to emerge in the international scene, and continuing to back the experienced players to do the job. That's a bit too defensive an approach. So I'm hoping to see more, I guess, proactivity going forward. And I'm looking forward to a nice and competitive series. Thanks.
Look, I think with the Super League, every game is competitive. Every game is a must-win. And with Mark Boucher not having started his international career the way he has started, and the drama he's probably going to get when he comes back home, he's going to probably try and put out his best 11. Best 11s are probably not going to make you, you're not going to probably see the guys you want to see, because he's going to go for guys he can trust to win games. And to a certain extent, you kind of need to win games like these to buy you time later on. Because the way I would go about the Super League, if I was coaching, my strategy would be try win as many games in the initial part of the Super League as possible, so that at the back end you can try different types of combinations and also youngsters to be able to help you get for you to figure out what it is to go to the World Cup, because you only get 3 games per team. So there's 24 ODIs between now and the World Cup. You need to figure out how you're going to work that out. And so my plan would always be try win as much as you can up front, so that on the back end you can then try the new combinations and everything else. But for this series, I think he's going to go best 11. I do think you're going to see a lot of Heinrich Klaassen. Also because Heinrich acts like a vice captain when there are no senior players on the side, and Timber's like the only one. He's the captain, and Rassie's there. But I don't think if there was an injury to Timber, they'd still pick Heinrich Klaassen as captain, like we saw, which is wild. As much in a team that has Rassie van der Dussen, but that's something else. So Heinrich will play. And yeah, look, I think for me going into the series, it's the spinners are going to be key, because you're going into a place where, and this is going to be quite interesting to see, is whether South Africa match Sri Lanka in their spin strategy. So if Sri Lanka give you 3 spinners, it kind of tells you that the pitch is going to be dry and flat, and you're going to try and do this. You're going to try and match them. If not, you're going to go seamer heavy, like South Africa always does against Sri Lanka. But I think for me, one of those situations that you need to figure out is how our batsmen actually handle spin. And as Aditya said, we don't have an ODI strategy because the rest of the world scoring 360, we're hanging around 280, 300. So something needs to give, and there needs to be a plan as to how we build things. And against Ireland, that's what I asked. I was trying to figure out how we do that. There was that game where Janneman exploded. That kind of worked. So I'm not too sure, as everyone has said on this podcast for many months, that Janneman's not great with spin. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how he handles that, especially after over 10. After the power play, the ball's gotten softer. How does he navigate that situation a lot better, especially with a partner who has also struggled in ODI cricket? Well, between Reza and Aiden Markham. And then on top of that, obviously, your 3, 4, and 5 need to try and get you as close as possible to over 35, over 40, so that a guy like Dwayne Pretorius can then, and possibly even George Linda, can come in on the back end and try get you from 250 to 300, 350 that. And so for me, that's what I want to see from South Africa. What's the strategy going forward to the World Cup? Outside of that, it's going to be quite interesting. I'd like to see Lazard Williams play. I don't think he's going to play Anrich and Kagiso all the time in this ODIs. So I think Lazard's going to be quite key in those opening overs, especially bowling in conditions that he's foreign to. So that's going to be quite interesting. And he's going to be also a key, because if in the games in which Lazard plays, I can bet your bottom dollar, Sri Lanka are going to try and attack him. But yeah, I think for me, those are the things that South Africa need to figure out. But most importantly, how do you score over 300 consistently in an ODI in foreign conditions that you're not used to?
No, I was laughing a bit. I thought I saw someone at the back of the chair is looking through the hole there, what he's doing. but you can wrap it up for us.
Yeah. I don't have much to add, and Paul said much of what I wanted to say. But yeah, the series is very important. We really haven't started well in the ODI Super League. So I'm also hoping the rain can stop in Sri Lanka, because it does have a tendency to rain a lot. And
whenever South Africa plays also.
Yeah, and we really can't do with like 2 washout in the series. We really can't do with that. But yeah, so I hope we'll play well, and we really stamp our authority. Somebody I'd like to see contribute a bit more with the bat in the series is Linden. He didn't have a very good series against the West Indies and Ireland with the bat. He bowled very well, but based on his ability and how he has been in the domestic scene and how he batted against Pakistan, I'm expecting a lot more from him with the bat. And yeah, obviously our spinners are going to be important. Hopefully Shamsi can continue his good form, and then our ability of our batsmen to tackle their spinners is probably going to be the main thing to look at. Especially Asaranga, we know is like number 2 in T20s, and I'm sure he will do well in the ODIs as well, especially if the pitches are conducive to spin. So that is going to be key. Those middle overs, that we don't get stuck playing at 3-4 and over for like 20 overs in today's day and age in ODIs. That's really not acceptable. So I hope we we'll play that aggressive type of cricket, but just better bit cricket. But yeah.
Yeah. Very, very important series and tour for Mark Boucher, especially with all the things that are happening off the field. It's a must win from that perspective, but it's also a must win for South Africa to build some proper momentum into the World Cup. At least we can put the ball in our own court and say, look here, we prepared the best we could. We won the series that we needed to, and we put ourselves in the best position to give it our best shot in the World Cup, and not have everybody, the fans and journalists and everybody doubting them, going with this unsure feeling going into the World Cup. I think it's a lot better to go there with full confidence, give it your best shot, and then we can analyze it overall and say, look here, we went wrong there, we went wrong there. Maybe we can give it another go at the next T20 World Cup, which is only a year away. So that's something that we can really, I think that's the focus that we need to go with into this. We need to try and win every single game, like Dwayne Pretoria said in his particular interviews as well. I'm not saying that Sri Lanka is not going to give us a hard fight, because they probably will do so. I'm a bit wary about Asaranga there, particularly. That guy, I think some of our batsmen might struggle a little bit against him, but let's see. I like it. I like that I've seen changes in Aiden's game in the T20 format against spin. I'm hoping that we'll see the similar type of thing with Yanaman in the ODIs as well. But guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to obviously subscribe to the magazine. That is your one and only job after this podcast. Obviously, if you're new to the channel, subscribe to this channel. But the number one job for all of you guys is to download the magazine. Link is on the screen, or you can click on it in the description as well, please. Do that and smash the like button too. And we'll see you guys again for another daily show tomorrow. Hope you guys enjoy your week and take care, everybody. We'll also be doing a review show, so Paul, please, guys, if you are available. I know Bai won't be available because it's at the times that we shoot the things. Sometimes it might be a little earlier, but I'm going to try to do it as late as possible so that Bai can be involved. And Werner, if you are free, we'll be doing it obviously before the first game, which is at Thursday, I think, is the first ODI. So I'm hoping to do it on Wednesday, the first preview for the game, either Wednesday or Tuesday. I like maybe a day in between. So let's try to aim for Tuesday for the preview of the ODI series, a proper preview of all three games. Thanks a lot for tuning in, everybody, and we'll see you guys again very, very soon. Take care, everyone.